Welcome in, Frostburg State fans, to Week 10 of the Frostburg Sports Awards. And today we have our first ever sharing of a co-athlete for Male Athlete of the Week. We're starting off with Clay Washington from track and field. Picked up a victory in the 100-meter dash, came in second place in the 200 meters, and was part of the 4x1 team that missed out on first place by just 0.01 seconds. Clay, I just want to get some of your thoughts on your performance and your team's performance this weekend.
I thought we did really good despite the weather that we had. It was definitely like on and off, but we had a lot of good PRs, a lot of good marks this week. So it was a pretty good meet overall.
We're going to start off with that weather, and during the preliminary rounds, it was about as rainy and as wet as I've ever seen a track where they're allowing people to actually run. To the point of where it looked like some guys were going to slip and fall at some points, and then sort of cleared up a little bit when you got to the final, and just to start off dealing with that weather and that rain, how do you manage that where you're used to being on a clear, dry track and coming off the indoor season where, you get to stay warm and everything, but this was chilly, it was rainy, it was not fun to run in.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. Usually right before it was raining, people were slipping on the hurdles. It was bad. So mentally, you just have to get in that mindset, it's time to go. But then 20 minutes later, it cleared up, like you said. So it was just unpredictable. We've had all 4 seasons in one day. It was crazy. But you just got to have that right mindset where it's okay, nothing else matters. It's just time to go.
It was like being at Frostburg on a road trip, essentially, with the weather that we get around here. And hitting, some personal marks and personal bests. You hit yours in that race in the 100-meter final, running a sub-11-second 100-meter dash, and your career best, as mentioned. What was the feeling when you crossed the finish line, knew that you had first place, and look up at the scoreboard, and you realized that that's your best ever time that you've had?
I didn't even realize I had first when I crossed, because me and the guy next to me, we almost crossed at the same time. And the track lean that people do, that was my first time doing that, so I was just hoping that I got under 11. But when I saw the time on the bill, I was like, oh, snap. This is crazy. This is so crazy. I was so ecstatic. And then Mark, before me, had ran his PR with the sub 15, so I was like, I have to outdo him. I have to.
Is that sort of a competition that you guys have with one another where you're in different events and it's like one guy goes and sets his PR so another guy thinks, I got to go get it too?
Oh, yeah, definitely. We do it at practice. We do it at meets. It's just so fun.
As part of the 4x1 relay team then, and again, just missing out on that first place by just 0.01 seconds, it was yourself and Mark and Nathaniel Messi and Devontae Clark, where it was an interesting thing that I looked at, that you guys are all different classes of one another. Devontae a freshman, Nathaniel sophomore, Mark the junior, and you're the senior. So it was just a little note there, but that's 4 years of kind of progress throughout the team. How have you guys kind of bonded and made yourselves successful in that event where it takes a lot of communication and practice time to be able to get every single thing down?
This is something we just practice in and out, and then even when we go to hotels for indoor, we all 4 stayed in a room together, so it was like bonding there, watching TV, playing the game, just getting to know each other as teammates and as just brothers.
In that race, and again, falling just short of that, but when you guys crossed and it was right next to the Penn State team that came up in first place, how is that, does that motivate you guys to try and get better the next time, knowing that you were so close and you go into the next meet, you're like, let's just try and run a better time and see if we can get, a first place next time as well?
Oh, yeah. Every week you're just trying to cut down that time for just a better ranking in conference. So even Devontae, he was a little mad, so that motivated him for his 400 hurdles.
For you in your Frostburg career, and I looked at some of your stats that you've had in the past, and you started out as really a 200 and 400 runner, whereas a little bit more of the distance sprinting, I guess we could call it. And you've now sort of transitioned into the 100 and 200 as sort of your specialties, as long as the 4x1. Obviously in track, you're just running to run as fast as you can at every time, but did some of those distance things kind of help you in the long run with getting that conditioning and helping you to work out your stride and how you want to run to get better and run that 100?
Definitely. The workouts before, it was a little rough running that long stuff, especially my first time running track. It hurt. It definitely hurt, but it definitely helped me build my endurance, teach me my technique. That way I could work on my pacing for the 200 and just be more explosive for that 100.
All right, Clay, thank you for coming on today to come and talk to us. Congratulations on your win and your fine weekend overall. Really appreciate you being here. Now that spring break's over, everyone's got to go back to class, but thank you once again.
Thank you for having me.
All right, well, next up, we'll continue with track and field with our another co-athlete of the week, and we talked about him. Mark Vaughns is going to be up next after he won the hurdle event, so be sure to stay tuned for that one. And as always, go Bobcats. Back on the Frostburg Sports Awards and continuing with track and field with our co-athlete of the week, Mark Vaughns, who won the 110-meter hurdles and also was part of the relay team that came in second place by just 0.01 seconds. Mark, just want to get some of your thoughts on your performance this past weekend.
I think it was a great performance considering the weather. It was very cold, but when me and the rest of the 4x1 team stepped on the track, it's like the sun just like, all right, we're going to come out. So when we ran, I didn't really feel the wind, but I was very excited with the time, especially with the weather. And it being like middle of the season, there's still room for improvement, so I can't wait for the next meets.
We talked to your teammate Clay Washington earlier today about the weather and how it affected people, and he mentioned that for you guys especially, the rain and the wet track was pretty tough. A lot of guys took falls, and Marquise Burks, one of your teammates, was one of those to kind of fall early on. How was it for you to prepare for that, to make sure that you're in the right mindset where you're trying to run as fast as you can, but you also want to stay safe and you're trying to not worry about the weather as much?
With us being in Frostburg, it's always cold, so I'm kind of used to the weather. And with running track, my mindset whenever I go into a meet is I go to win, and that's what my mindset was that meet. And I was not worried about the weather whatsoever. I was trying to pull my teammates along, but my mindset is always just to go in there and get the dub, and that's what we did.
In your event and in the dub that you got, it was a sub 15 second, 14.85, 110-meter hurdles. It's a PR for you, and you won the event by 0.4 seconds, which is really, really good in that type of event. And then we looked at some of our history, and we found out, it's unofficially, but what we have, it's the sixth best record all time in Frostburg history for you. When you crossed that line, I noticed on the video that you kind of threw your arms up and you knew you would run, but then you looked up at the scoreboard and you realized it was sub 15. What was your reaction in that moment then?
I was like overjoyed. I was excited because when it first stopped, it was at like 95, and I was like, oh, that's good. That's a PR. I mean, yeah. But then it dropped to 85, and I was like, whoa, what? I was jumping. I screamed. I was like, let's go. I was, with the weather and everything, I was not expecting that. But mid-race, I saw the guy like out of my peripheral to my right, and I was like, I can't let him catch me. So then I was just like, with the mindset of winning, I was like, all right, we gotta turn it on. And then after that, it was just from there, the finish line, look up, wow. So I was very excited with the time that I ran.
When we talked with Clay, he said that your sub 15 gave him motivation to then go on and get a sub 11, and he had the mindset of, well, he just set his PR and it's sub 15. So if I don't run really well, he's going to give me some talk on the bus later on. And, he mentioned that's something that's kind of you guys in the sprints you guys have where, one guy sets a PR, does really well, the next guy wants to step up. Is that the mentality that you have as well?
Yes, with hurdles being the first event, I always gotta show up Clay a little bit, even though it's not his event. But me PRing, and he was right after me, and I held his blocks as well. So I feel like I did a little bit something. I was holding his blocks, giving him a little bit of my energy. So yeah, just with practice and all these fast guys that are coming in, we always have a little talk. And when he knows that whenever we PR, or if he doesn't PR and I PR, he knows he's gonna get that talk during at the bus. So yeah, that's just always the mindset. Just beat our teammates, really. I mean, I'm worried about the rest of the competition, but if Clay beats me, I'm like, dang, that man Clay, I'm gonna get the talk at the bus. So.
So Clay, if you hear that, Mark's taking credit there for part of your sub 11 seconds, so you better give him some there. In the 4x1 event, and it was you and Clay along with Nathaniel Messi and Devontae Clark, and again, talk with Clay about it, about how you guys have a camaraderie among each other during some of the indoor events when you're there for 2 days. You all like to stay in the same hotel room, bond a little bit, play some games, and chatter and get to know one another. For you guys, and it's 4 levels of class where, Devontae the freshman, Nathaniel the sophomore, you the junior, and Clay the senior. How have you guys been able to come together and run some really good times? And I think a couple weeks back again at Charlotte, ran a sub 43, and this one getting second place. How have you guys been able to bond as a team there?
Just with we're always around each other, and like you said, at hotels we're always chilling. And Devontae, he's a funny guy. He's an interesting character. So he's just one of those guys that you just have to be around him, and he's a cool person. And that's what Clay and Nate as well. They're also cool people, and we always we get dinner. We joke at practice all the time, and 9 times out of 10, those are like the guys that we're talking to if we get a PR, and they're always excited when we PR too. So that just comes with the indoor and being able to cheer on them and at hotels and just being around them, you just gain that camaraderie, as you said, and teamwork, and that's where that came from.
For you, on a personal note, you've also competed in the pole vault in quite a few events throughout your career here, and we brought in freshman Tom McCoy, who's a very good pole vaulter in his own right, and he's, I believe, second place in the conference right now, second place in the all-time records as well. Obviously, a very technically difficult event, and you look at who's come in, and Adam Smith has also done it as well with you. You're kind of the quote-unquote senior leader among that group, even though the other guys have some better heights. But as a group there, what's the difference in terms of how you guys communicate and coaching one another as opposed to the sprints?
Since I just started pole vault like a year ago, and Adam and Tom, they've been pole vaulting for a lot longer than me. They're always giving me advice, whether it's row the pole or stay tight the pole, and that's just how we communicate. Even though Tom's jumping very much higher than us, he's always giving us little tips that can allow us to hit a PR or jump somewhere close to him or get decent form where we're going to be able to move up to that next pole so we can jump higher. And that's just how we operate with pole vault. Even with some of the girls, Amanda and Chloe, they're always giving us tips and tricks that they found out that can help us jump higher. So that's how it's a little bit different from sprints where like they're giving us tips, but they're also, in sprints, we're motivating each other by talking and like, I'm going to beat you in the next rep, you better. But in pole vault, it's more like, that rep looked good, but if you row to the pole or stay tight to the pole more on this next rep, then it could be a little bit better. So that's how it is.
All right, Mark, thank you for coming on today to talk to us. Obviously, you've got classes now back in swing after the spring break. Everyone got a week off, but appreciate you being here. Congratulations on your weekend, and hopefully set some new PRs and rub some more sub-14 hurdles later on this year.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being on here, and that's always the goal with these next coming meets, more PRs and jump higher.
All right, next up we have our Coach of the Week, Jeff Splinter, as men's tennis picked up their second win of the spring season. Be sure to stay tuned for that one. Back on the Frostburg Sports Awards, and I'm here with Jeff Splinter, who is our Coach of the Week after men's tennis picked up a very impressive 6-1 victory on the road against Westchester on a chilly Sunday afternoon. Coach, just want to get some of your thoughts on your team's performance on that day.
Yeah, it definitely felt like a home match being out there in Westchester. A little bit of wind, a little bit of chill. It just felt like another one of those practices where, we shovel the snow off the court and we're good to go. So we dealt through some little snow flurries coming down every now and again. We got a little bit of a snow globe effect. But, I think really our players made the most out of the situation. No one really... we weren't complaining out there. We knew we were out there to still play a match, and the guys really had an impressive victory where Bloomsburg the past weekend, we ended up losing 4-1. Westchester felt very similar in a level, and the guys really stepped up in a week's time and had a very impressive win over a team that just beat Kutztown the day before.
Usually I would ask, with the amount of weather and the challenges of that, how would you prepare for it? But given that we're in Frostburg, I think that you're always prepared for that weather, given the amount of changes that happen within, we feel like we have about 4 seasons within one season. For the guys to step up in that moment, and obviously last weekend, again, weather kind of got in the way in that Bloomsburg match, but this time, was it just their mentality? Was it the way they prepared and that they were able to step up and get those victories needed for this win?
Yeah, I think when we started spring break this week, it was like 80 degrees, but we really met together as a team and talked about what we wanted to see going forward in the rest of the season. We talked about that Bloomsburg loss because losing the doubles point really kind of hurt us, and it makes it a lot harder to go out and win 4 out of 6 singles matches than it does winning half of them or 3. So it really started there, and the guys had some really good conversation about what we wanted to do in practice to go up against some of these other teams. We're about to get into conference play here shortly, so it's what we want to see from ourselves this year compared to last year, and how we want to continue to grow. And the most impressive thing to me at Westchester was getting that doubles point. So 3 doubles took care of business per usual. Dell and Caleb have been absolutely on fire all spring season. And Mason and Eli had a really close match. They were up a break and weren't able to really close it out. Had a tough finish there at second doubles, and then tied 1-1 going into that crucial point. And Origin and Desire were on what seemed like cruise control, but as we know from those two, anything can happen. So we had a really close match. A couple of deuce points went the other team's way there towards the end, and but they were playing outstanding tennis all day long, and Origin and Desire really came up clutch to get that doubles point, and I think that really took a lot of pressure off some of the guys, and were able to relax a little bit and play our best tennis in singles.
In that tie-break match with Origin and Desire, they got up and then came back, and 7-6, 9-7 was the final in that one. Were you nervous at all when they kind of got back into it, or were you thinking to yourself, these guys are so talented that they're going to pull this out and they're going to get us that huge win?
Was I nervous? Yes. Did they take years off my life? Yes. Those two always play at a high level. We never really have to worry about that. But sometimes, they get a little too cute, and then we kind of try and really focus on what we should be doing. But, sometimes when you hit a good shot, you just want to admire it a little bit. But what we did see was we were down 5-6 in the tiebreaker, and Desire hit serve and volley, probably one of the best volleys I've seen off of him, and that was probably the momentum changer where we were down match point in that doubles, is going from 1-0 to 0-1 down, and he had the most confidence to go up there and hit a serve and volley, which he wasn't really doing all day long, and to have the confidence and the thought process in that moment to go for that kind of a shot was big for him, and it was big to continue to lift up Origin too. So, we appreciate the level that they're bringing on the doubles court. I think those two still have their best tennis yet ahead of them in doubles, and they're still really focusing on how to play with one another, and they're getting better match in and match out.
We talk about the other doubles match and Caleb and Dell. And Dell's been dealing with a little bit of an injury, battled through it, was able to help get the win there along with Cable, and both of them. Dell had to sit out the singles matches. Everyone kind of stepped up and filled in the spot beneath him, in theirs. And you won 5 out of 6 of those singles matches. And you talked about that momentum carrying over. Was that something that, again, that you saw, we're going to have to take this guy out, so everyone's going to have to step up one place?
Absolutely. We harped on that a little bit where, this is a winnable match out here. Dell wasn't really able to do much with his backhand, so, he didn't feel super comfortable going out there, so we just pulled him. Like we said, we have more conference matches. Not that they're more important because Sunday was a winnable match, but, we want to make sure he's good to go versus Fairmont on Wednesday. And, it's playing those kind of factors and trusting that we have the depth that we can to go out and beat teams with what we've got. So we've got to trust everybody else, and Caleb, Mason, Matt, and Eli all stepped up 3-6, and for Eli to not be playing in the singles lineup to going and stepping in 6 singles, and he was off the court in 20-25 minutes where that first set he felt very confident. We can see it in doubles where he was hitting some great balls. They might not have got the win, but he was playing at a very high level where we felt very comfortable, taking Dell out and putting Eli in and sliding everyone up because, it's that next man up mentality, and the guys really embraced that yesterday.
You brought up the Fairmont match on Wednesday. It'll be your first MEC match since February when there you took on West Liberty, and you look ahead and I just happened to look at the standings today, and you guys are tied, same record. Fairmont hasn't played an MEC match yet, and you guys have one under your belts. You look, at least from an outside perspective, and you think these two teams could be very similar, and we talked in the preseason about how you want this team to try and get into that conference tournament at the end of the year, and this is a match where, obviously having the confidence but also the know-how that, it will be a tough opponent, but trying to pull out a win and having some of the momentum from Sunday carrying over.
Yeah, especially for the men, I think Fairmont has a very talented 1 through 3, and any or 1 through 4 actually. Any one of those guys can play anywhere, and we love the confidence that Origin, Desire, and Dell and Caleb have really been bringing at that 1 through 4 spot, and the consistency that they've been having in their matches and setting themselves up and being patient. Some really great things. We've had some very competitive matches over the past couple of weeks with, Westchester, Bloomsburg, Hartford. These are all close matches that could have gone either way, and we've gotten 2 out of 3 of them. So I know the guys were kicking themselves after that Bloomsburg loss, and we don't really want to feel like that again. And Fairmont was a team last year that we felt like we could compete with a couple of more additions, and with 5 new guys kind of starting and making a role and impact on this team, we're really excited to go up against that. And for the women, I think this is definitely one of the more competitive matches that they're going to have this season too. So, we really like where we're at on the women's side, and Fairmont may have a little bit, more depth than we do, but we really, look at some of the matchups towards the top of the lineup and feel very good that our women can go out and pull out some wins.
Well, Coach, thank you for coming on today to talk about your team. I want to congratulate you on your win and certainly wish you the best of luck this coming Wednesday and hope to pick up a conference victory, but really appreciate your time here.
All right, thanks for having me. Go Bobcats.
All right, next up, we'll be wrapping up these sports awards with Stephanie King from Women's Lacrosse, who is our Female Athlete of the Week, so be sure to stay tuned for the end of the interview. Wrapping up week 10 of the Frostburg Sports Awards, I'm here with Stephanie King from Women's Lacrosse, who is our Female Athlete of the Week. She scored 4 goals in Women's Lacrosse's first win against Barton last week. Steph, just want to get some of your thoughts on your performance and the team's performance in getting your first win.
Yeah, it was really exciting to get our first win since last year. I mean, we definitely needed it. We played some really hard teams in the beginning of the year, but it was really exciting to finally get a win and have a comfortable win.
In the beginning of the season, I talked with your head coach, Taylor Sindel, about some of those opening teams, and she had some confidence in that you guys were going to be able to compete against them. And starting off with 2 ranked opponents, obviously very tough, and a couple of, I guess you would call them humbling losses, and kind of showing that, where this team wants to be. And then a bunch of close losses throughout the year to some teams that were winnable games. But was that all kind of showing you guys of, learning how to lose in a way to be able to come out with results like this in the end?
Yeah, so last year we had sort of a shortened season in our out-of-conference teams, and I think there was only about 3 or 4 games, so it didn't really show before we got to conference. So this year, having those losses out of conference kind of was more of our growth, because for our team it doesn't really matter because we can't go farther than the conference, but every single team we played, we learned something from, especially one of the top teams in the country. Playing against them really showed us where we want to be in the future. And then the closer games, that just came down to finishing, and all the teams played really well. Every single game that we played against, it was back and forth. And I think by the end of this past game that we played, we finally came together and put it together to finally get a win.
For you personally, coming back for your 5th year kind of as a super senior on this team, you've become really one of the leaders in terms of experience, and really yourself and Lindsay Coleman, sort of coming back. And, this team is very new. There's a lot of new faces. It's a very young team with a lot of freshmen that have come in. How have you handled sort of transitioning into being more of a senior leader and trying to show the youth of this program, like you said, the heights that this program wants to get to?
So Lindsay and I both experienced Frostburg's lacrosse team since 2017 when we came here, and it's been insane the change that we've had and getting a bunch of new coaches. With Coach Taylor, I feel like we've learned to develop into who we are, especially in the Mountain East. We've developed into a team that is so versatile and can be young and have our older girls all produce on the field. Lindsay and I, when we were freshmen and sophomores, we didn't have very much a winning record at all. So coming from there, I believe it kind of taught us how to be great lacrosse players and really appreciate the wins that we had and the wins that we got, yeah.
Speaking on your performance itself, and in a lot of those losses, it seemed like it was sort of a death by free position where the other team was just getting a lot of open opportunities from, those free position shots. And in this game, it seemed like you guys flipped the script and you got free positions and you got 3 of them yourself, and were able to finish and score. Was that sort of the key in that game of just taking your opportunities, forcing the defense into the mistakes, and then getting those free position shots and scoring off of those?
So on our defense, we're very solid when it's 1v1 defense. Our girls are marked up. If we foul and put them on the 8, that's where it's more of a controlled scenario and the team can capitalize on it. That happens on both sides of the field. But we've been working on 8 meters a lot in practice because our team does get fouled a lot and we do draw a lot of penalties. So we've been working on those every single day at the end of practice and being able to put them away through more sticks and crashes, especially even our middies. Most of our attackers can normally put them away, but putting away the free position is like what seals the deal. If you miss that, it kind of just is a turnover and it goes back to the other way, and then the game could go anywhere. Free positions are really important along with the draw controls.
The other big thing that I noticed in that game was you guys were able to get out to an early lead there in the first quarter and sort of hold on to that and not let Barton really get back into the game, where in a lot of the games this year it's been we fall behind in an early deficit or it's a close game throughout. Did that give you guys sort of a sense of stability and confidence that having that lead that you knew as long as you just kind of played your game, you were going to be able to come out on top?
Yeah, so I felt like after our past game against Shepherd, we had about 2 weeks to prepare and we focused a lot. We did a lot of conditioning, we did a lot of skill stuff, and we really went back to the drawing board to decide what we needed to do to play our game. So what we did was we focused a lot on the draws. We focused a lot about controlling the ball and putting the ball in the back of the net. Our defense has always been a solid unit. They just got to continue what they were doing. When we put the first goal away, it was super exciting. It was super exciting because it gave us a confidence boost that we haven't really had. It's a great feeling every time you score a goal, but if you're trying to inch back every single time, it's hard. It felt like it was really important and special that Lindsay was getting all those draw controls and a bunch of our younger girls were helping us get those possessions because that's what helped us seal the deal at the end, just gaining those possessions and putting the ball away.
Lindsay certainly was very impressive. And you go back again last week on Monday in the very close loss to Missouri Western. Lindsay came on in the second half and really was a difference maker in getting the draw controls and trying to lead the team back into it. Another that impressed me on the draw controls, Chrissy Milburn, who has come in as a freshman. And another big moment late in the game when she scored off of the free position, her first collegiate goal. Everyone seemed to kind of swarm her and really appreciate that she's added an element of real speed to this team that, not a lot of people can really match. She's kind of just an energizer bunny that gives energy to this team. Is that something you see too?
Yeah, I love Chrissy. She's a freshman and she just is one of those people that came in ready to learn. She came in ready to work. She always has her mind ready to play, practice. And just during games, a lot of freshmen get on the field and they're scared, they don't want to mess up, but she's always willing to ask questions, always willing to see what she needs to do. And, she's put the ball away a lot for us as a freshman, and she's carried the ball down the field from the defense, which is great. She could play any position if she needed to.
Going into this weekend coming up, it's a big game against Notre Dame. Obviously a rematch of last year in the conference championship game, a team that you guys have kind of gotten a little bit chippy with in terms of, you're both very competitive and feisty and getting out on the field and a lot of back and forth. Going into this season, you look at the overall records and neither program has really had a great season up to this date, but you get into that and it's really become a rivalry game for you guys and kind of throw the records out the window at that point. How are you guys preparing for early in the season, your MEC opener?
Yeah, so we've been looking forward to conference since we started just because of how last year ended. We lost by 4 in the conference championship. We lost to them in the beginning of the year and beat them in the middle of the year for the second time. So, it could always go either way with Notre Dame. They're a great team. We're a great team. It's going to be a really fun game. And I think this week coming, we just have to prepare. Everybody has to, get their heads right, prepare, and expect the unexpected. You never know what a team could bring out when they're playing the hardest teams. We're tied. Both of us are tied for preseason number 1. So, we're just going to come out ready to play and ready to win.
All right, Steph, well, thank you for coming on today to come and talk to us. Obviously, as a grad student, you've kind of got some classes here and there and thereabouts, but we really appreciate your time here. Congratulations on your performance and on your win. Hopefully, we'll see some more coming up soon.
Thank you.
Next week, we will be back with another pair of athletes and a new coach, so be sure to stay tuned for that one. And as always, go Bobcats.